Somebody's knocking at your door. Somebody's knocking at your door. Oh, children, why won't you answer? Somebody's knocking at your door. Somebody's calling out your name. Somebody's calling out your name. Oh, children, why won't you answer? Somebody's calling out your name. Somebody's ready to forgive. Somebody's ready to forgive. Oh, children, Somebody's knocking at your door. Somebody's knocking at your door. Oh, children, why won't you answer? Somebody's knocking at your door.
Then we'll do all three parts. We do. I'm gonna sing, sing, sing.
I'm gonna shout, sing, sing, sing. I'm gonna shout, shout, shout. I'm gonna sing, I'm gonna shout. Praise the Lord. When those gates are open wide, I'm gonna stand by Jesus' side. I'm gonna sing, I'm gonna shout. Praise the Lord. Sweet Lord, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home. Sweet Lord, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home.
When the saints,
Oh, when the saints go marching in. Oh, when the saints go marching in. Oh, how I want to be in that number. When the saints go marching in.
sounds good. Thank you. Let's use our liturgy. Does everybody have a sheet? The Lord be with you.
And also with you.
Yeah, here in your presence, God.
And in our need, and bringing with us the needs of the world.
Come to you, come to us.
And you know by experience what human life is like.
We come with our faith and with our doubts.
We come with our hopes and with our fears.
We come as we are, because you invite us to come.
And you have promised never to turn us away.
To the Lord, listen to your children sing.
Lord, listen to your children singing. Lord, send your spirit in this place. Lord, listen to your children pray. Send us love, send us power, send us grace. Lord, listen to your children praying. Lord, send your spirit in this place. Lord, listen to your children praying. Send us love, send us power, send us grace.
It's time for the reading of the story of Jesus' story. Now, I can run in and get a Bible.
I put it on my phone.
Want to go ahead and share it?
Well, do you want to read it?
I do. You can read it or give it to somebody that you can tell the story.
I don't know. You want to read it? I want to do whatever you all want to do.
You're equipped and ready, so I think you should read it.
All right, so I'm going to read it. I wasn't sure if I was supposed to tonight, but anyhow. So the reading for tonight is Luke 10, verses 29 to 37. But he wanted to justify himself, so he asked Jesus, "And who is my neighbor?" In reply, Jesus said, a man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho when he was attacked by robbers. They stripped him of his clothes, beat him, and went away, leaving him half dead. A priest happened to be going down the same road, and when he saw the man, he passed by on the other side. So too, a Levite, when he came to the place and saw him, passed by on the other side. But a Samaritan, as he traveled, came where the man was, and when he saw him, he took pity on him. He went to him and bandaged his wounds, pouring on oil and wine. Then he put the man on his own donkey, brought him to an inn, and took care of him. The next day, he took out 2 denarii and gave them to the innkeeper. Look after him, he said, and when I return, I will reimburse you for any extra expense you may have. Which of these 3 do you think was a neighbor to the man? To the man who fell into the hands of robbers? The expert in the law replied, the one who had mercy on him. Jesus told him, go and do likewise. Hello, church. So this is the story of the Good Samaritan that we all know pretty well. And so I am charged today with telling the story about a surprising person picking you up after you were knocked down, picking me up after I was knocked down. I had a hard time with this one because in the story of the Good Samaritan, it's a stranger. In fact, it's someone who is shunned from the rest of society who helps this person. And I really couldn't think of a personal experience like that. And I could think of a couple of stories that were in the national news in recent times about this. And I also thought about the fact that in many countries and in certainly many states in the United States, we actually have laws called Good Samaritan laws to protect people who are Good Samaritans. Like many doctors are reluctant to help you unless there's a Good Samaritan law in place, because if something terrible happens when they're trying to take care of you, the person may sue you. So it's a twisted kind of use of the word Samaritan, right? That you actually need a Good Samaritan law in some instances. So I thought about that a little bit, and that's interesting. And I actually do have a story of a doctor I know. She actually lives in the building with me. And some of you may have heard her story. It made national news in 2018. Dr. Fatima Stanford was flying on a Delta aircraft, and the woman in the row across from her started to basically have a panic attack, but it looked like she was having seizures. And it turned out she had an overwhelming fear of flying, and it had gotten control of her, and she appeared to be having a seizure. So they cleared the seats out next to this woman, and Dr. Stanford went over to help her. Dr. Stanford is an African-American woman originally from the South, and she is a bigwig doctor of obesity at Mass General Hospital. And she teaches courses. She teaches, medical doctors training in her work. So she was helping this woman, and not one, but 2 flight attendants came up to her and asked her if she was really a doctor. And she showed them her medical license, which she had been carrying at that point in her wallet since 2016, because another doctor friend of hers was interrogated while treating somebody on an aircraft. So she showed her license. They continued to ask her, if you Google her name, the whole story will come up, and it'll talk about how they asked her if she was a head doctor. She didn't know. She's like, what do you mean by that? But in any case, at the end of the story, when the plane landed and Dr. Stanford stayed with this woman for the rest of the flight, and I think it was another 2 hours, they said, well, we guess it's okay that you treated her because she seems fine now. So it hit national news because this was not the first, but at least the second African-American female doctor on a Delta aircraft who had gone through this experience of people questioning her capacity to care, in large measure because she was an African-American woman. So that story is in the paper, and as I said, it's a friend of mine, so that's probably the closest story of somebody who is different and that maybe some people would shun, having had an experience of helping someone else. And the other story that maybe most of the people here have heard is the story about the Amish community in, I want to say that was maybe 2004, 2006, something like that. But there was a gentleman who many years earlier had, he and his wife had their first daughter. They gave birth to their first daughter. And his first daughter died after living only a few days. I know, it was terrible, Arthur. And his heart was crushed. He was really devastated by it. So much so, he felt like God had done this and had allowed this to happen. And he actually sort of plotted revenge. So he waited years. In fact, he had at least 2 sons. And after these years, he went into an Amish schoolhouse and he shot 10 Amish children.
Oh.
5 of them died, 5 of them survived. And then he shot himself. So you're too young to have heard the story. I think your parents would have shielded you from it.
That could have been.
No, this is a true story.
Yeah.
And it is a true story, but here's the amazing part of this story.
Well, that's.
When it happened, and the news cameras weren't watching, the Amish families, who normally they keep themselves away from the general public, right?
Yeah.
They don't shun, well, they try to keep to their own religious community, but they went to this man's family, to his wife and his children, and comforted them. And they invited the wife's family to one of the children's funeral, and they came. And when it was time for their husband, Charles, who had done this horrible act, to be buried, they invited one of the Amish families. And the whole Amish community turned out for his service. There were more Amish people there to support his family at his funeral than there were his own family. And that story I really wanted to tell because the harmed community in that one, the harmed community was the community that did the work of God. Their community was attacked and their first action was to forgive. And if you read about it online, which is easy to do, in fact, just Google Amish and forgiveness. The whole story will come up. They believe in the life of Jesus. They believe in what he said about forgiveness, and they live it as best they can. And it was a grandfather who was the first one, a grandfather of one of the children who passed, who was the first one to go to this man Charles's family and provide emotional support for them. So I guess the moral of these stories for me is that in this country, in most countries these days, life isn't always easy, and it's not always easy for some to accept the assistance of others. But there are amazing stories of grace, of people who intervene when someone needs help. I probably read 10 of those today. You can see the 10 greatest hits. That's also online. 10 what are considered some of the 10 biggest Good Samaritans in the United States. So there are people who intervene, there are communities of people who intervene, but really it seems the difference between those of us who don't and those of us who do, it seems to me, is those of us who have the word of Jesus in the forefront of our mind, in the midst of a tragedy, in the midst of a sorrow, that if we look there first, we'll find a way of grace. That's what I have to say for tonight.
So we're now going to divide up, and I want to say 6 minutes, and I'll let you divide however you like to divide, Katie. I'm not sure if the practice has been in pairs. I'm going to say 6 minutes, and here is the prompt. Think of a story in your life or otherwise, when somebody helps somebody out, and if you can, maybe helps you out, but it's a surprising person. In the case of the story Jesus told, it was indeed somebody who was shunned and looked down upon. But even beyond that, it was just somebody that the listeners of the story did not expect to be the hero. So where somebody surprising does the kindness. So give it some thought. I'm going to ask, Sonny and I are going to be a pair. Aren't you going to join Katie and Ina?
Yeah.
You do that. And maybe since Barry just coming in now, and you had a chance to share a couple, you do that. All right. And I know the online will be on a timer. So when they're back, maybe Katie will bring us back in. Is that okay?
Yep, great.
All right. So get a small group. Diane. Yeah.
But as you can see, Deb, I ended up,
Yeah.
I heard it. Yeah. Were there stories all around?
hey, Burns, what's the name of the girl? She came, I think she's in the ministry, but she came to Fourth Church. She's a friend of yours, and she lives in a lovely part of New Jersey. I can't think of, that's what I can't, I was trying to finish off with Deb, but I can't think of what part of New Jersey it was. Lovely town. She came here and she ministered. I think it's sometime, it could have been around the time when Lorraine had expired and you had all these different ministers coming.
Oh, yeah.
Are you thinking of Nancy?
I know, that's why I'm asking Bern. She's from New Jersey. Very lovely part of New Jersey. Gosh, I can't think of the place.
No. Not sure.
Oh,
We're not sure, Gerald.
yeah. Anyway,
We'll think on it though.
yeah, the main part.
Yeah. Well, friends, let's have a prayer of intercession, and then we'll also get a share prayer request. Loving God, we hold in your healing presence those who suffer pain and ill health with their families, friends, and those who care for them. May they know the deep peace of Christ. Loving God, we hold in your healing presence those who suffer in mind and spirit, and all who care for them. Together we say,
May they know the deep peace of Christ.
Loving God, we hold in your healing presence the suffering people of our world and the places where people are experiencing division, injustice, and violence. May they
Know the deep peace of Christ.
Loving God, hold in your healing presence those struggling to overcome addiction or abuse, working with all who suffer, and distance them from those who love.
May they know the deep peace of Christ.
Loving God, we hold in your healing presence those facing bereavement. May
They know the deep peace of Christ.
Loving God, we hold in your healing presence peace those whose needs are not known to us, and those whose names we do not know but are known to you.
May they know the deep peace of Christ.
Together we say,
Amen.
it is time to share prayer requests. And I just learned this, but Michael Hogan passed away. This is Jack Green's brother-in-law, Karen Hogan Langley's father, known as Hoagie. Lived on D Street for years and years, and he passed just today.
Jackie, brother-in-law.
Yeah, so if you remember Jean, Jackie's sister Jean died some years ago. And continued prayers for the Kathy Berger.
Continued prayers for the Freeborn family.
Yeah.
What's wrong with them?
The Freeborn family, Debbie's, Debbie's.
Thatcher's mom.
Thatcher's.
Well, Thatcher's grandmother.
Right, and
Debbie's.
her sister. I think she had two people. She had two people.
No, when they die. It's not-
Or, sorry, the other one, it was in a grave situation. I don't know if she's actually passed.
Are there anybody that?
Yeah, any Zoom prayer requests? Deb and then Holly.
Prayers for Sophie. She's sick with something and the vet doesn't know what it is, and she'll be fine, and then all of a sudden she'll have episodes, and it's costing me sleep, and which has been really hard. But I just want her to get better.
Thanks, Deb. And Holly.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll offer my usual prayers for Arlene and Russell and Josephine, all those in abusive relationships, churches in transition, and everybody affected by the wildfires.
And Mark and Barbara?
Please continue prayers for my friend Mark, who is in hospice now. They took him off all his machines this afternoon. So prayers for comfort towards the end of his life. Thank you.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
I'm talking about.
Geraldine, did you want to say a prayer?
Oh, no, she said they took him off all these machines, and I thought that was a good thing. So, okay.
No.
No, it's not. Okay. I got it mixed up.
Okay.
All right, let's pray, friends. Gracious God, we lift these prayers on this very warm day in our hall, through our computers and in your spirit. This is our last gathering this way, God, but the prayers on Zoom will continue as they have. So with that continued spirit, we continue to pray for healing. And we open ourselves to the healing that comes from surprising places and from surprising people. God, with compassion and love, we offer you our suffering and pain. Give us the strength to bear our weakness, healing even when there is no cure. Peace in the midst of turmoil, and love to fill space. Amen. Together we say, Our Father, who
Lord in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever. Amen. Lead me, guide me along the way. Lord, if you lead me, I cannot stray. Lord, let me walk each day with thee. Lead me, oh Lord. Lead me, oh Lord. Lead me, oh Lord. Lead me.
May God bless you and keep you. May God be kind and gracious to you. May God look upon you with favor. Everybody says together.
Alleluia. Amen.
Jesus Christ be with you.
And
Also
also
with you.
That's what the peace is.